monsters and ghosts to otherworldly beings. Join the Explorers as they venture into the darkest realms, seeking the truth to what goes bump in the night.
Good evening and welcome to Explorers Seekers of the Truth. Tonight, as always, I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Les Sinkavich. So what's up, buddy?
Yeah, not much, bud. How about you?
Oh, not too much. Was kind of hoping Russell would have joined us tonight, to have that third person.
Yeah, well, what can you do? Sometimes you can't get your every wish,
Yeah.
What I'm wondering is two things. One, I'm very, very happy that you're able to join in tonight because literally, ladies and gentlemen, we were literally down to the wire. Chad's CPU took a crap on him, and he had to reboot and redo his entire system practically right before the show went live. So I was kind of shaking in my boots here, trying to figure out if he was going to make it in on time or not. The second thing is, I don't know why I have this amber cast behind me. It must be the ambient lighting, but it's really annoying. But that's just me. So, what do we have on the docket for tonight, my friend?
Tonight we are going to talk, some of the facts and fiction of paranormal investigation, some history, some, tools and techniques and other things that we use and some ideas that we've shared over the years on the subject.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, before we get into that, let's just remind everybody that they could get in touch with us tonight during the show. Be Live has a link with Facebook, so just comment underneath our little live show feed on our Facebook Live feed. You can comment down; it'll pop up inside Be Live, so we could see what you guys have to say, and we could comment back to you. Also, if you could, you guys could go online and check us out at our new website, www.explorersgroup.com. We just got the site up last week, and we've been getting some good feedback on that. So check us out there. You can get in touch with us there as well. And you could also get in touch with us on Twitter at Explorers Group, and also, as you're doing now, at facebook.com/explorers. So now with that out of the way, let's tell everybody what we're going to be doing tonight. So, folks, we're really excited to bring tonight's episode because I know this topic is one of our favorites, Chad and I's. Chad, maybe you could tell the people listening tonight a little bit about the history of the paranormal field. Most people know it only for what they see on TV or from ghost tours, but from what we've researched, there are far more layers to this subject. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, the paranormal research really starts around the 1900s, but I mean, if you think about it, it dates back a lot longer than that. There are, old ghost stories that date back to China, ancient China, ancient Rome. Different cultures have their stories and their, myths and legends about stuff like that. But the actual research really dates back, early 1900s with the Organization of Psychical Research. Yeah, I had to actually go ask somebody how to say that.
Say that again. Psychical?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought
Psychical.
Psychical, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that I actually had to go ask my wife, who has a degree in psychology, what that word was. So, that's early on. The first book on the subject was published in about 1936. It was a link out there.
Oh, there we go. You're there. Okay, I lost you for a second there, buddy. Your camera froze. I thought we lost you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm looking for this book. If anybody can find me a copy of it somewhere along the way, it's called The Confessions of a Ghost / Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
It dates back to 1936. It was written by Harry Price. Some people know who Harry Price is. Some people may not. He was a magician back in the, he grew up learning the magic and the trade, the trade of being a magician. And he joined some of, into the Society for Psychical Research in 1920. And one of the big things with him was because of his knowledge of magic and, the use of sleight of hand and, misdirection, he basically was very good at debunking a lot of like psychic mediums, and he even actually believed some of them were genuine. Though that was one of the things too. He wasn't just they're all garbage, and there was no validity to the craft that they were employing.
Mhm.
He actually endowed the University of London with equipment and an endowment to form a department of psychical research. Basically back in 1934, and it lasted for quite a few years at the university.
Mhm.
And he was a member of several different societies on investigations and stuff like that. One of his very good friends was Harry Houdini, who was known for his debunking
Mhm.
of psychics and ghost stories and stuff like that.
Mhm.
He was also the first. Sorry about that, folks. I just had some thing pop up on my computer. He was also the first.
Scammers.
What was that?
I said porn scammers.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably that game that you were telling me about earlier where you have to click the button to keep it moving.
Yeah.
Leslie, I have no clue what he's talking about. That's all on him.
Moving along.
Yes. He was actually one of the first filmed ghost hunts. Back in, I'm trying to think exactly what year it was, but it was very early on. It was an old manor house that they claimed to be haunted, and he actually was filmed for I believe it was the BBC already at the time, and the film was produced and used as some, early on ghost show. Now, that's some of the history, some of the, Harry Price being a little more famous, being the first author, now he's probably not the first actual author, but the first researcher that was authored. He's also the first in the, hey, I got a TV show and you don't part of the industry. So, that is the early on paranormal investigation, paranormal research. Then around post-World War II, the whole field of paranormal research kind of disappears into the shadows. It's kind of a taboo thing. Right. I think that could be directly related to the Nazis and their use of the occult and occult imagery and research to try to further their goals.
Right.
And, it didn't completely disappear, but it was always something that people were very secretive about until somebody else brought it up. Then when somebody else brought it up, they would start, oh, yeah, I do that too. Or, hey, I've been there. How about you? So that's, where it stands at that point. Now, I know, Les is a little more into the modern stuff than I am, like with the industry.
I suppose. Well, actually, side note, not to backtrack a little bit, but some people may not know that Harry Houdini was very much into the paranormal world and into seances and whatnot. And when he died, he wanted his wife to try and reach out to him via a seance so he could. One of his last greatest acts would be to almost communicate back from the dead to prove that there is an afterlife. And I think it's in Scranton, there's actually a Harry Houdini kind of.
It's a museum.
Yeah. And they actually do. I want to say that they allow, quote, paranormal researchers into the museum to do, because I think he actually lived there for a short period of time, and they let people into the museum because some of the relics that are there were personal belongings to him, and they say that, you know, the building is haunted and some of the artifacts are haunted. I don't know. You could look it up online. It's kind of interesting, and kind of a little fun fact there. But yeah, like Chad was saying, I mean, ghost hunting, modern ghost hunting, I guess, was more popularized in the 2000s through different television shows like Most Haunted, Ghost Hunters, and you combine that with increasing availability of high-tech equipment. The Atlantic Paranormal Society, which I believe was TAPS, or no, that's Transatlantic Paranormal Society. The Atlantic Paranormal Society reported a doubling in their membership in the late 2000s, and they basically attributed to the television programs and the attention that they were gaining and the popularity that they were gaining. A lot of people were getting more into it. Now, I know I could speak for myself and yourself. I mean, we started this back in the mid to late 90s. We drive all over the place to the local lore and legends, and we would try and find ghosts via the means that we knew were relevant at the time: cameras, recording equipment, stuff like that. But now everything has gotten so much more great, I guess, with the advancement of some of the equipment and the technology. But despite the lack of acceptance in academic circles, the popularity of ghost hunting and reality TV shows has influenced a number of individuals to take up the pursuit. So, like nowadays, it's flooded. Not, I mean, we're in that flood, I guess you could say. But I mean, we've been doing this for an extremely long time. But
see, I blame MTV for the whole industry.
Yeah, right.
If you remember that TV show Fear that MTV had, which was nothing more than a psychological study, like case study done on willing participants that were fed a ghost story, basically, about a building, about a place that they were being sent. None of which basically was true. Half the times the buildings that they said they were in weren't even the type of building they were in. It was just to see how people would react to that stimuli. And so that's where I blame a lot. I mean, there were shows before that. I mean, Unsolved Mysteries, stuff like that always kind of had, you know, a Halloween episode that was more ghost and goblin-y.
Right. Well, they didn't really... they weren't really paranormal researchers per se. Those shows were more just telling ghost stories, but
yeah,
they were great. But in going along with that, there was a survey in October 2008. A survey was conducted by the Associated Press and Ipsos, and it stated that 34% of Americans said that they believed in the existence of ghosts. So that's kind of a low number, if you ask me. You know what I mean? I would have thought that there would be more, especially by that time with the influx of all these different programs and TV shows and stuff like that.
Well, you also got to realize there is a window in those type of surveys for, you know, people kind of not necessarily answering that question honestly. There's always that variable like, oh, I don't want people to think I'm weird, so I'm going to still say no.
Right.
You know, but even 34%, I think we figured out that was 600 million people the other day.
Still a lot of people.
Yeah, it's still more, you know, 34% in the U.S., you know, believe in ghosts. It goes up, you know, in other countries, other areas and stuff like that. But so even say 34% of the population, you know, you're looking at a couple 100 million.
Yeah.
Now, I would love to know how many of that 34% actively investigate or do research in the actual paranormal field, or is it just, well, I saw something when I was a kid, I couldn't explain it, so yeah, I guess I believe in ghosts.
Right, right.
Or
Well, there was another poll, the Gallup poll, I think in 2005, that was 30% of Americans believed in ghosts, but the numbers were declining with age. So I guess the older you get, the smarter you get, or the more you write off. You know what I mean?
well, yeah, it's also the closer you get to death.
That's true too.
So,
But what I find weird though is, and I don't go around, when I talk to people, I'm like, not like, oh, hey, I believe in ghosts. You know what I mean? Like when I get talking to people, a lot of times, especially older people, a lot of times nowadays, I think it's more accepted, especially now. I mean, a lot of these polls are already, over 10 years old.
yeah.
And I think a lot of people now are far more accepting. I mean, there's a lot of people that are, that I know that are 60s, 70s, and they all talk about experiences. They all talk about ghosts. And they all say that they believe in some sort of an afterlife. And
Yeah, well, that's the stigma, this I almost want to say stigmata, the taboo of it with their age. It declines with age. The belief declines with age.
right.
Well, they also grew up in a time where it wasn't on television every week. It wasn't, there's radio shows, there's websites, there's podcasts, there's all this material dedicated, web shows dedicated to this field. So therefore, maybe there's still that, that I do believe, but I don't want somebody to think I'm weird.
Yeah.
I actually wear a shirt that around that says, "Hi, I'm Chad and I believe in ghosts." I figure I might as well be upfront. If you want to call me weird, then okay. Now, like we were saying, like you think 30 to 33%, that's 1/3 of the United States population.
Right.
1/3. Now you go to
a greater number than you would than I
when you think about it. But then you go to other countries like Britain,
mm-hmm.
and up to 40% of people believe in ghosts.
Yeah.
So I mean they're only 8 percentage points ahead of us technically, but 40% now it's a smaller country also. Right, our 32% is probably bigger than their 40.
Right.
In actual number.
True. So that kind of brings us up to another point or another term, pseudoscience. Pseudoscience it consists of the statements, beliefs, or practices that are claimed to be scientific and factual in the absence of evidence gathered and constrained by appropriate scientific methods. So you figure pseudoscience is often characterized by the following contradictory, exaggerated, or unfalsified claims, and the reliance on confirmation bias rather than rigorous attempts at refutation, lack of openness to evaluation by other experts, and the absence of systematic practices when developing theories. I need a drink after that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's actually the definition for the term. I gave that to Les in the show notes and made him read it, so I didn't have to.
I did it. So there's your definition of pseudoscience.
Yeah. Now, what people got to realize is that doesn't exclude the possibility that these beliefs are that they're not correct.
Right.
It just is saying science likes to have everything wrapped up in a neat little package.
Right.
They want to be able to reproduce it in a laboratory. Well, the problem is it's very hard to reproduce those situations in a laboratory.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's something that, if spirits are real, if it's something that is moving between, whatever theory you believe in with what ghosts are, it's hard to get your dog to do everything you want all the time. And you feed them, you water, you give them water, you give them treats. every so often that dog looks at you and is like, I'm going to go for a run today. You know? So that's the whole thing is they like to wrap it up in packages. They like to put it into a category and just kind of, give it, oh, it's pseudoscience. It's not real. It can't be real. Well, I think that it's like everything else in science. Well, that's impossible. And somebody figures out mathematically how it's probable.
Right.
And then all of a sudden people are like, well, if it's mathematically probable, then it is possible. So we have to add it to our definitions of things and the possibility of existence. And there's, like I said, we're going to get into some theories on what ghosts are and, beliefs. I kind of grabbed a few interesting, quotes and stuff over the years. Like basically Freud thought ghosts are actually visions of people who are afraid of death.
Mm-hmm.
So in his sense, it would be that they were just like projections of their like subconscious mind creating, oh, I saw something, creating it because of their own fear of death.
Right.
Freud was a lunatic, a cocaine addict. He's been dismissed in psychology and stuff like that nowadays.
I'm sure he saw a lot of things, I guess, in his lifetime if he had all those issues.
Yeah, basically, I just got consulted by our resident IO psychologist.
You're freezing up again.
Freud.
Oh, there you go.
What's
You're
that?
back. You were freezing up again. At least on my end. I don't know about on the viewer's end, but on my end, you froze up for a minute, but you're all right.
Yeah, basically, one of the only things with Freud that was ever really good or correct in his diagnoses and all that was that things that happen in your childhood affect you as you get older.
Right.
So, that's just part of it. So, I kind of want to jump into another, person that was relatively famous. Arthur C. Clarke had the television show Mysterious World.
Yep.
And he basically kind of thought it was like your brain playing a movie on your eyes, and people then seeing it as a ghost, but it was basically just your brain relaying images off your eyes and then processing those images as being real. It's kind of interesting.
Interesting, but kind of a hard pill to swallow. I mean, I guess it's feasible, but it almost would be kind of like dreaming while you're awake.
Basically, it would be your brain working backwards with your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
The whole process reversed is how your eyes and brain work. That's how you see things. But for some reason, your brain would occasionally flip how it did things. So it would project to your eyes, and your eyes would see it and relay it back to your brain.
Wouldn't you have to be seeing something in order for it to play it back and project it? Unless it's playing back a memory.
No, it's playing. Your brain is sending an image to your eyes through the same nerves and stuff like that your eyes send the images to your brain. Your brain processes them and creates what they are.
So I guess you would see some random 18th century person walking around a house. You know what I mean? It's just when people do see certain apparitions, like if they see somebody or like a man or a woman from a different time period, I don't see, I mean, unless it was from a movie, I don't know. I don't, like I said, it's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
You could go on and on forever with that one, but.
Yeah, well, my problem is, why do ghosts always speak English?
Yeah, isn't that odd?
Yeah, and it's always modern English. It's never olden English or proper Queen's English or something like that. It's always very Americanized English.
Right, and another thing and this is kind of a side note that I always find odd is, especially on a lot of these shows. Now, I know they're for entertainment value, but when they're like in a different part of the world and they're doing investigations, or like, I'm just going to use for example Ghost Adventures. Not knocking them, I enjoy the show. I'm not picking them apart. But they were down in the southwest, and I think it was Arizona or something like that, and they're in some Native American reservation, and they were talking to these ancient Native American spirits in this cave, and yada yada yada. So they're asking them questions in modern tongue. How would they expect to get any kind of a reaction when the deceased have been deceased for centuries before any white men they have seen any white men? You know what I mean? It's kind of odd. Like you said, like everybody assumes or things play back as modern English.
Les,
Yeah.
do you have a window open?
No. Why?
Okay, look at your
I
bookshelf.
have my ceiling fan on.
Oh, okay, because it's moving the thing next to your bookshelf in the background.
Thing next to my bookshelf.
Yeah, that brownish thing, your air conditioner, and then on the corner. Or is that just the way your camera fluctuates?
Beats the hell out of me. I don't know. I don't see anything.
Right where your wall and the bookshelf are.
Here?
No, come down. Bring your finger down. Down a little more. That thing on the floor. That. No, up there. That thing.
There's a briefcase.
Okay, whatever. Never mind.
I don't know.
It must be the camera or something, the feed, because it looks like it moves.
Oh, wait. You mean like right
there? Yeah.
It's a plastic bag.
Yeah, well, it keeps moving.
All right. Okay.
It's a ghost bag.
Debunked. That's how you do it.
Yeah. So, kind of, get into some of the theories. Hey, Kevin.
Yeah.
Getting into some of the theories is, basically every major religion has some kind of, afterlife, spirit, what happens after death. Spirits in Christianity, head off to heaven, hell. Some are stuck in purgatory and are, forced to live until, they're not living, but they're stuck in a realm between the two.
Yeah, until you could be released to the proper afterlife.
Yeah. Now, I mean, that could be a coping mechanism. That could just be the way people deal with stuff to try to, everything's okay, everything's good, they're in a better place, that old statement. But now, when it comes to ghosts, and kind of, do you really think if you saw the spirit of a loved one, or just a spirit in general, do you really think that would make you feel okay?
It'd probably scare the crap out of me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, most people, I don't think would be like, oh, there was great-grandfather Jimmy Jack Johnson, and I'm so glad he's living in our house with us. That'd be pretty creepy. Like, oh, there he goes again, going through the kitchen.
You see, that's the one thing that kind of creeps me out. Not deceased loved ones from my family, but the history of my current house, the house that we just moved into, has a bit of a history to it with two of the current or the previous, not current, previous owners. Yeah. I admit nothing, but two of the previous occupants had died in the house, and there's some stories that go along with that kind of I always have in the back of my head, but I try and forget, because there's one rule with paranormal investigation that I have is I never investigate in my own home because I don't want to draw anything up.
Yeah, I mean, except for the one house that we shared in college that,
Well, that was different. That was me and you. That was just two dudes. We didn't have children.
I don't think that house gave us an option though either.
No,
the way
it didn't.
things constantly were happening and there wasn't. I don't think there was a night that went by that something weird didn't happen.
Exactly. You know what, ladies and gentlemen, folks out there listening, we will save some of our personal stories for later on in the show because, like Chad was talking about, we've been friends for more years than I could even count, and we were college roommates in a house that had
going on 25 years now.
Yeah. The house had significant age and significant history, and we'll get into that later. We'll feed you guys some tidbits, but we'll tell you the the true and full stories later. Some really creepy stuff happened there, but let's get back on with our topic here.
So one of the things we were talking about is pseudoscience, and yet science almost should have to recognize the field of paranormal research because in the laws, of conservation of energy, basically, the layman's version of it is energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It just changes form.
Mm-hmm.
So that would kind of, we're energy. We're a whole bunch of, electronic impulses from the brain through chemicals through our body that cause our muscles to move, cause our, us to breathe, our heart to beat. It's all electric. It's all energy.
Mm-hmm.
So when we die, according to science, that stops.
Right.
But yet in science's own law, it can't happen.
Because energy is never ending. It goes on forever.
Yeah, no, but our energy stops, according to science.
Right, but that therein lies the conundrum. There is if it stops, but yet you're saying all energy never ends.
Yeah,
it's always there in some way. It's kind of like the butterfly effect. Everything, for every little piece of energy, it keeps going on and on and on and on. But
so now another theory on the what ghosts or spirits are. And this is kind of an interesting theory. I've kind of read a little bit about it over the years, and I've kind of always thought it makes more sense, but you really have to buy into the sci-fi, concepts at times. But basically, the theory is that apparitions are actually interdimensional beings.
mm-hmm.
So basically, sometimes those ghosts you're seeing are not actually ghosts.
Right.
They're beings from another dimension, that have basically somehow slipped in at a certain point. There's an overlap or some kind of hole that allows them to be seen in our dimension. And basically theoretical physicists have come up with the multiverse theories and stuff like that. And it's basically saying that there are tons of universes universes that are basically ours, but with differences.
Right.
Basically the Beatles may, still be, performing live. The Rolling Stones might be dead.
Right.
The Chicago Cubs have won, World Series after World Series. They're the Yankees. The Yankees have, didn't win for 100 years.
Right.
That's one of the theories. Now there's other, theorists out there that basically think, oh yeah, there could be other, universe in this multiverse idea, but they're on different timelines.
Right. Kind of like, do you remember that TV show that was on a couple years ago? And I really wish it would have continued, but they stopped because of budgeting issues, I guess. Terra Nova.
Terra Nova with Stephen Lang.
Yeah, that was such a great show. But I mean, it's the same premise where they find this kind of ripple in the
and that was also a different universe that they found the Earth in. So that's why
it was our world.
Yeah.
Just at a different time. So if they would have gone back, because I guess they opened this portal, if they would have gone back in time in our own dimension, it would have rewritten history completely and basically destroyed us. But since they went into this parallel dimension that was the same Earth, just on a different timeline, we were able to go back when the Earth was young and pure and restart. So there's a lot of theories about interdimensional beings. Like some people theorize that Bigfoot is an interdimensional being and whatnot. I don't know if I really subscribe to that. I'm not saying it couldn't be possible, but I don't think that's what explains ghosts, or it doesn't explain all ghosts, because you can't really explain why you see a deceased family member, or they may come back and tell you about something that might happen or has happened, or why something has happened, because if they're on a different timeline, they're most likely not even going to know who you are, and they may not even have been in that timeline. You know what I mean? I think that.
Well, the problem with this is it becomes theoretical. Theoretically, there is another planet. Mathematically, this has basically been proven. There's another planet that has a less than a chat that are doing a podcast right now. It's been mathematically proven that it's more than likely that is happening. Now, it's probably a better podcast than we do, but they're probably funny and good looking. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily answer all ghosts. Right, but I think that's the thing. I don't think there is a one size fits all, answer, because the slippage of time. One of the things that I was very interested in about this was there was actually, basically people theorizing that we have energy spikes in the electromagnetic field. This part of theory of ghosts is there's that spike. There's extra energy created when they're around.
Right.
If you could create enough electromagnetic energy, you could create a ripple that would allow the intersection of the dimensions in that ripple.
Right.
So
for lack of better terms, you'd basically open a portal between the two.
Yeah. Now the whole thing there with the theory is, if you opened a portal that was, you don't have control of where that's going to open in the other dimension.
Right.
So you may open it in Antarctica and see snow.
Right.
It's not necessarily that you're going to open it in Times Square, New York on New Year's and you're going to see a whole bunch of people, which then would be interpreted as ghosts in our dimension. So yeah, I don't think there's a one size fits all. That's why I think a piece of each one of these kind of fits at times.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of theories out there, and it's really hard to kind of put your finger on one in particular and say that this is correct or this isn't correct. I personally feel, or I don't want to say I believe, or I feel, I would like to think that life is kind of like the life of, say, a butterfly, to go back to the butterfly. You start in the pupa, the caterpillar, then you go into the cocoon and you're reborn into something new. I like to think, like, going back to kind of like the religion theory, is we have a spirit within us, or our energy, if you will, that is kind of contained within this physical form, and when the physical form runs its lifetime or its duration, the inner pure self is released, or your energy is released, and that is what is what is thought to be a ghost, or a spirit or whatever. I think that the energy lives on, whereas the physical body dies. And that was 2020.
That was so beautiful and touching.
Yeah, well, it also begs the question, if other beings are accidentally crossing in, to go back to the inner dimension, if other beings are accidentally crossing into our dimension, do we cross into theirs? Maybe occurrences such as astral projection or lucid dreaming can be linked to the short trips into, the different or similar dimensions, Who knows?
That would be weird if you really think about that. If you, you would never know you're a ghost in somebody else's dimension.
Right.
Yeah.
And say lucid dreaming, right? Or astral projection or something like that. To you, it's a dream.
Yeah.
But again, with the dreaming, your physical body is still within this dimension. So is your energy leaving? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that would get into the astral projection. Would be that your energy is actually separating your, quote unquote, your soul is separating from your physical
body.
shell and is moving through that space.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It would be weird to be a ghost in somebody else's dimension, though.
It would be kind
of cool. That those weird times that things, aren't necessarily what you should be doing.
Yeah. Well, there are other, schools of thought that say that ghosts don't even exist at all, that there is no such thing as ghosts. And, this is kind of comforting news until you hear the second part of the theory. Ghosts are actually demons or a manifestation of demons or angels manifesting into, something that's understandable to humans. Like they may take the form of a person or a child or I don't know, maybe even an animal or something like that. That they're not ghosts; they're just angels or demons. Again, it goes back to the religion kind of theory, but it's otherworldly beings that are kind of either here to protect, like you see the ghost of your grandpa, he's beside your bed at night, but it's not really your grandfather. It's a guardian angel just taking his form to letting you know, just to comfort you, like if you're in a time of need or something like that. But in your mind, it makes sense because it's like, oh, that was grandpa, or just say it was my dad, like, oh, thanks, Pop, you came back, hey, great, but it was really an angel. Or, in the case of like, little kids, demons are supposedly fond of taking shape of little children in order to befriend human children.
Yeah.
It's not nice, but our demons aren't supposed to be nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the whole thing of that person, you recognize them as your grandfather. So it's that familiarity of comfort of that being showing you. It's always, that movie Contact with Jodie Foster when she finally gets to the aliens where, she's zoomed through the wormholes and all that. They basically, I believe they showed themselves as her father, and they basically explained to her that this would be more comfortable and easy for you to understand, for us to communicate, if we present ourselves as something you're familiar with and comfortable.
That's interesting. you know.
The fact that I used a Jodie Foster movie, or
no, just the thought of maybe they're not ghosts, maybe they're aliens. I mean, that goes into a whole other freaking theory. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, aliens. I mean,
dude, there's so many theories. We're not into our alien show yet, but there are so many theories on that, and I've got a pretty good theory. So when we get to our UFO. Well, I like to think it's a pretty good theory. And I can't claim it because it was actually, you remember Mr. Herb? I think he was like our 8th grade science teacher. It's actually his theory. And when he said it in class the one time, I completely subscribed to it. I thought it was brilliant. But then again, I was young and dumb, and I'm old and dumb now, so I still buy into it. So,
well, there are people that believe like angels and demons are technically aliens. I mean, I don't personally, but there are people out there that believe a lot of things.
Right.
So that's like the angels and demons type.
Well, another part of the angel and demons, like an offshoot of that, is demonic spirits are supposedly able to control human apparitions and make them do kind of horrific deeds. So, because like a lot of times when you have ghosts trapped in a house, a lot of times they say, when you watch a lot of the ghost story shows, not the ghost hunting shows, and they say a lot of times, oh, there was the apparitions, three human apparitions or 3 human spirits were trapped in this house, but there was a darker demon. There was a darker spirit or a darker being that was there, and it was a demonic, and it was controlling the human spirits and keeping them captive and yada yada. So, like for example, like a demon may hold human spirits in this world and kind of gain power over them and prevent them from passing to the next realm. To whatever that is, it just so he can keep them here and torment them, and almost like a hell on earth, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So you're talking about my first marriage?
Yeah, sure. I think it's safe to say that of all the theories that we talked about, I think what was the 4th one would be less desirable for any homeowner. Right?
Yeah.
The demonics or whatever.
Well, I mean, it depends. Because you could turn your house, if you have a demon and it's willing to cooperate, you can make good money renting your house out for weekends for people to have a weekend with the demon experience.
True, very true. That's true. And speaking of ghosts in the house and I can't even talk. Let's go into the next topic: residual hauntings. So that's another form of spirits, and I know this all kind of seems, we're talking about paranormal investigating, and it all kind of seems kind of jarbled right now, but we're just talking about the different theories for anybody who's just joining us right now, because we are pretty far into our show. We're talking about paranormal investigating throughout the history till now, different kind of spirits and apparitions that people kind of go after and what they could be and theories behind them. And another one that we're about to talk about is residual hauntings, like ghost sightings are recordings of the past. There's a theory that says, ghost sightings can be explained like a residual haunting is basically if you say you filmed a person's death and you played that video back on a looper and it just plays over and over and over and over again, that's more or less a residual haunting, where it's like the same thing over and over again in the same place. Some investigators speculate that the different types of natural geology and geography, such as certain rocks, bodies of water, above or below ground, like limestone, they say can like hold or record energies and stuff like that, and they could be conducive to residual hauntings. I mean, again, it's a theory, and the bodies of water and stuff like that produce energy, a constant energy, because it's a constant flowing source. So you combine that with different sorts of rock materials and stuff like that, and the rock holds the energy or the moment, if you will, and the water provides the energy to keep it going. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
If you look at a lot of the stories and the more famous haunted locations and towns and areas of the country,
Right.
you kind of do see a lot of the limestone and stuff like that.
Right.
House foundations, just natural piles of that type of stone found in that area, quarries, mining it and stuff like that. So I kind of, it is reasonable to me to think that way. Now that is again more of a residual haunting where it's just that 5-second clip of
right.
whatever happened going and going. But the problem is then why can't you always see it when it, you know what I mean? Like you don't see it every day.
Right.
It's not happening over and over and over again every day. It's, once in a great while somebody reports seeing it.
Right. And I think the hard part to kind of, how do you prove that? How do you prove that an element or a mineral is capable of recording such events? You know what I mean? Like I understand. Go ahead.
They would basically have to make a hard drive with it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
They would have to be able to figure out a way to make a hard drive with it, and then they could basically say, "Oh, well, it can store data."
Right.
But then, how does that data naturally get, without the process, get on that stone? And why is that stone of all stones special compared to the stone next to it?
Right. And how does it reenact only certain parts? Like you see the people, but let's say it was recorded into the foundation, a limestone foundation of an old house that's long since burnt down. Why wouldn't it replay the entire building? You know what I mean? If it's recording a scene, I don't know, maybe because the inanimate objects don't produce energy, so the stone couldn't absorb that energy, so therefore it can't play it back. But how would it play it back? I could understand the concept of it maybe trapping energy.
Yeah.
But how does it play it back?
Yeah.
That's what I can't buy into. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think it may help, energy, bounce around in a certain area,
Mm-hmm.
the different types of stone and stuff like that. But again, like you said, how and when does it choose to play it back? Like, how is it capable of doing that? Why?
Right.
Yeah. But then you look at some of these residual hauntings, and there's no rhyme or reason why they're happening when they're happening.
Right.
You would think if it happened July 3rd of 1863, it would only replay on July 3rd throughout the course of history. Why in February would people be seeing, a Civil War spirit on the battlefield? Why in February would that all of a sudden happen?
Right. Why would it play out of sync or out of time or something?
Yeah. Folks, that's one of the things that when you examine this stuff, it should kind of be one of those questions you always have in your head: is why am I seeing this? Why is this happening now?
Right.
Is there a correlation between the time, could it be the moon, the temperature, all those things that could go into play that match up? But I don't know. I really don't.
I don't know either. But you know what, folks? We're going to start talking about. We're going to be getting into the equipment and basic tools that are used to conduct paranormal investigations and their usages. But before we do that, we have one more theory on what spirits or ghosts could be. And Chad, I'm going to let you take that topic of
Yeah.
I guess if you want to announce it, I don't know what I was going to say, but I just drew a blank.
I'll just keep going.
Go for it.
You know, basically, it's your subconscious mind.
Right.
Um,
That's what I was going to say.
it's the simplest explanation. Is it's purely your imagination.
Right.
Wraps up that again. It's a scientific way of wrapping up that neat little package
Mm-hmm.
and pushing it down the line. I think what people that believe that should really understand when they do have an experience because hallucinations are usually a sign of some kind of psychological issue,
Mm-hmm.
some brain problems or something like that. So, if you just thought, oh, it's all in my head, I didn't really see that, but you believe you did see something, then you're hallucinating. And that is a sign of different illnesses and conditions. So you might want to get yourself checked out.
Yeah, you want to go see a doctor.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing. But, again, like if you're hallucinating, why would you see, somebody you've never met?
Right. Well, I mean, it's hallucination.
Yeah.
I mean, some people hallucinate, especially people with severe schizophrenia. They could see, they could be walking down the street and a dumpster could come to life and try and attack them. You know what I mean? It's completely random. But, I mean, also ghosts can be in your head without you being ill, and without a runaway imagination. Perhaps ghosts or ghostly activities are extensions of the subconscious, either yours or someone else's. I mean, what do you think?
I don't know what to think anymore.
Well said.
Well, if you're, I mean, it could be, collective consciousness, people sharing the, different energies, throughout the entire human race. And, I don't know. I've heard so many different theories that connect this dot with that dot that connects to another dot that, forms the picture of this and whatever, whatever you want your beliefs to be, you're going to connect all those dots to make that make sense.
Yeah. Because again, these are all theories.
Yeah.
Nothing has been proven. That's why we're all out there. That's why, anybody who considers themselves a paranormal investigator or researcher, that's why. Are you trying to use sign language to talk to me? I'm just kidding. That's why people do.
Dude, I find that very offensive. I can't believe you just did that on our show.
We'll edit that out. But anyway, but think about it. I mean, it's all theories, and that's why we're out there trying to prove, you threw me off my game, damn it. All right, let's move on. All right, now we're going to start talking about some of the equipment that we use to investigate, locations. We're going to talk about the basic tools. Yeah.
Well, then I guess the first tool we need to talk about is the safe range meter, or as most people have watched Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, Ghost this, Ghost that, Ghost Brothers.
K2 meter.
Yeah, basically the K2 meter, folks.
That's right. The K2 meter is an instantaneous response to EMF fluctuations and spikes. Electromagnetic fields is what EMF is. Sorry, I was reading Kevin's comment there. Jesus, dumpster, and I agree. But anyways, the K2 reads these electromagnetic fields or spikes, and it's a simple device. It's a push on off button. It's easy to read. It's just a system of lights. The more lights you have, the stronger the field is. The accuracy is like 5% at a 50 to 60 hertz level. It detects ELF ranges from 50 to 1,000 hertz and VLF ranges from 1,000 to 20,000 hertz. The K2 EMF meter is used by ghost hunters to find indications of paranormal activity by looking for sudden or erratic readings or spikes of the lights on the K2 meter. Like I just said, the lights indicate the more the lights, the stronger the reading. But a man-made electromagnetic field creates a steady reading, while the spirit world energy is believed to be what creates the impulse readings on the K2 EMF meter. Researchers using the K2 have been able to do what seems to be actual communication sessions. Like you could set a K2 down on a table and speak to the spirits and have them say simple yes or no questions like, if you're here, light up the lights. If the lights light up, you got a response. You could say, are you alone? Light up the lights if you are. If you're alone. If it lights up, if it doesn't do anything, then maybe they're not alone. Are there more than one spirit here? And, it goes on and on and on. So you could use that to kind of communicate with the spirits or ghosts or whatever you want to call them. And the ghost is simply, well, like I said, it's instructed to do A, B, and C based off of, the response you get out of the light. But the fact that the K2 meter uses lights to notify you of various levels of EMF strengths makes the meter perfect for use in the dark. Because as most people, or in low light environments where it's hard to see. You could use them during the day, it doesn't matter. You can use them anytime, but it's particularly good at night because most times when you investigate, you're usually lights out in the dark. You can't see much, but you're always going to see that light. And it's a really good thing. And we always get excited when the K2 lights up like a Christmas tree, when everything goes up. I mean, that's awesome. And another cool thing with the K2, well, you know what? I'm rambling. What are your thoughts on the K2? I don't want to keep going on and on.
It's a very effective tool. Again, it's something I've had this discussion with other investigators, some of which are over in Europe and stuff like that. And we should just do away with K2s and all these devices that light up because they just cause false positives. Well, the problem is there's a lot of people that don't know what they're doing using them. Like, basically, if you took your cell phone and held it by your K2, it's going to light up like a Christmas tree.
Right.
So a lot of people aren't using them necessarily properly. So therefore, a lot of researchers just get rid of them. That way there's no false positives. And I think that's just an old throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's a piece of equipment that works. So why would we just, because somebody else doesn't know how to use it, let's not allow us to have it or use it or as an investigation tool. Now, as to kind of give some people some ideas of how we use the K2. When we do our research, you arrive at a building, whatever it is, we're going to say building. And when you arrive, you go through all your, here's the waiver, sign it, all that stuff. You go through your little tour with whoever the tour guide is. One of the first tools that you should break out is your K2. I always have what we consider a, pre-investigation sweep, and get out that K2. Start looking for natural and man-made fluctuations in the fields, okay? That way you can debunk that later. If you don't do a pre-sweep, you go out there and later in the night, all of a sudden you're getting all this readings, and like I said, there's a cell phone laying there, and you're not taking into account that the electronic device, it's going to give off a signal. One of the things also is by looking for man-made and natural, there's a phenomenon called a fear cage, which is a high EMF field in an area, usually caused by electric, lights and power. And what science has researched EMF's effect on the brain. And it can lead to the, feelings of fear, dread, foreboding.
Right.
It also has been shown that high EMF levels can also lead to hallucinations.
Yeah. Well, and also headaches, dizziness, nausea. There's a lot of ways, and all bodies and all people react differently to the electromagnetic fields.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of people would say, "Oh, I went in my basement, and in this one corner, I get so sick, I get so dizzy." Well, you have and basements in particular are kind of hot spots for open and a lot of wiring. They're not going to be hidden behind walls. They're usually exposed. And in some older houses, they're really poor wiring. I remember I lived in a house. It was really old, and a lot of the wiring in the basement was still cloth bound. And I actually took my K2 down there, and oh my God, that stuff. That wiring was horrendous. I mean, my meters were going off left and right. So, and a lot of times your circuit boxes and stuff like that, the main hubs of your house's power are housed in the basements. So, like Chad said, you got to do your pre-investigation sweep. Hit everywhere. Take slow walks through. Sweep the meter back and forth. Anywhere you get a spike, you really want to look into. Go to the ceiling, go down the floor, go to anything around you. So that way you could debunk or write off certain things. You're like, all right, well, I got a spike. All right, what was this? Okay, great. And another thing, too, like Chad said, is you want to try and keep your cell phones. I mean, a lot of people like to use cell phones for the camera, for, you do EVPs with them and stuff like that. And that's all well and good. But if you're going to use your cell phone during an investigation, don't use it when you have a K2 meter. Because when your camera is your cell phone, you could have your cell phone next to the K2 and it won't react at all, but you get an email sent to your phone. Maybe you don't have a chime or anything set up for it. So you get an email. It's creating energy. There's a wave, a frequency coming in, a signal coming in to your phone. So, oh my God, I got a spike. Well, no, you're getting emails or you're getting a text so try and leave when you get to the point where you're working with sensitive equipment. Try and keep your cell phones and stuff either in another room or out in your car or something like that. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And by doing your pre-sweeps and stuff like that, you establish a baseline. Remember, science always argues that this is pseudoscience because it's, they can't reproduce it. So the more science you bring into the scenario and the more control that you use during these investigations, the better your results are going to be.
Right.
You're not going to be walking around blind going, "Oh, I got a spike. And like Les said, you're getting your text messages or you silenced your phone because you have the EVP recorder on the table and you don't want to get, and then all of a sudden you're getting those little bing, ding, ding, and it's not making a noise, but all of a sudden 2 for yes, and you're talking to Russ who sends you one-word answers, one word, and all of a sudden you're getting 2 for yes, do. Yes, that was okay.
Oh, he's responding.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it goes off 6 or 7 times in a row, and you're like, was that like 3 yeses and a no, or
But little do you know, it was rapid fire Russell with his 8 billion text messages to do one paragraph. We love you, Russ, for only busting your chaps there.
We miss you, Russ.
We do, Russie. We wish you were on the show tonight, but we understand that you can't because you're an important businessman. Okay, let's move on to the next tool, and I think we have a couple of these in our arsenal. A thermogun is a practical device that isn't typically used for, its intent wasn't for paranormal investigating. It was more or less for, I guess, home inspectors or HVAC people, and they're good for detecting hot and cold spots in your house. They're pretty cool because they have a built-in laser, so you can, wherever you point the laser is where you're getting that reading from. So if you point it on a chair, you're going to get a reading from a chair. If you point it at somebody's chest, you're going to get a reading from their chest. Now, keep in mind, though, they're mainly designed to read temperatures from inanimate objects. So something that is constant, like if you're, say, your bed, say, okay, well, this is where, so-and-so died, and every now and again we see a depression in the bed. Well, you hit the spot in the bed where the depression usually shows up. You go on the other side of the bed. If there's a difference, well, okay, maybe you have something there. But if you point it at a person, a lot of times I've noticed with experiments that I've conducted with the thermal guns is it's anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees off. Because, the human body usually is at a constant 98.6. Well, if you use the thermal gun, a lot of times it's 10 to 20 degrees colder than that. So just always keep that in mind, that it's primarily for inanimate objects, so don't try and take your temperature with it, I guess. I don't know. But yeah. And they're kind of cool too, because a lot of them have a backlit LCD screen. So again, when you're doing investigations in the dark, you're pointing your thermal gun to the area you want to register. You can hit your backlight button. You get your temperature reading in Fahrenheit or Celsius, whichever you prefer. It has an auto off to extend your battery life. Most of them come with batteries, which is nice. So they're a really cool tool, and a lot of them you could get them on Amazon, or you could go to if you want, you can go to our website, www.explorersgroup.com, and check out our gear section. And in the gear section, again, we're part of the affiliate program through Amazon. Again, we don't get a lot of money from this. We get a very, very small percentage. But we ask that if you guys are interested, you want to start getting into ghost hunting, check out our gear section. This isn't a cheap pitch, but I'm just saying a lot of the stuff that we use may not be the exact same things, but it's as close as you can get to the stuff that we use. That's why we put it on there. We've tested a lot of it. We've tried a lot of it. We rely on a lot of it. So, check it out. The stuff's out there. The thermal guns are out there, and they're relatively inexpensive. You can get them on Amazon for under $20. But it is a pretty cool tool to have. And Chad, you want to tell everybody about the new temperature reading devices we picked up that we are going to start trying to use?
Yeah, we actually found basically a temperature, humidity, time, date type, clock thermometer combo set. And basically, it's nice, you do your sweep with your thermo gun. You set up your baseline again. You collected that data. So now you have rooms that you've been told or areas of a house or something like that you've been told are paranormal hotspots. This is where all the activity is always happening. Mm-hmm. So you can put one of those in frame of your camera and constantly measure the temperature in that room.
Right.
So if that room has been a consistent 65 degrees the entire night, and then you're sitting in there and the EMF goes, the K2 goes off, and then all of a sudden you watch the temperature drop 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 degrees.
Right.
You might have a little something going on there. What it is, again, that's what we're trying to, kind of figure out and prove. Is it spiritual? Is it, just a fluctuation that happens on Earth? So we're trying to bring as much science and data collection technique and skill on our investigations as humanly possible. Mm-hmm. We're always doing pre-sweeps. We're always setting up baselines. I mean, I draw pictures of the houses and buildings that we've done before we do them. I get an idea what the floor plan is, where cameras are going, possibility of, window placement in a room and stuff like that. So we're constantly measuring all that because, yo, look at me, I feel cold, and they're holding up their arm, and you see the hair standing up in goosebumps. Well, cold is subjective.
Mm-hmm.
If your body, runs at normal 98.6, 90 degrees feels cool sometimes.
Right. And not only, again, like you're saying, the subjectiveness of cold spots, especially in old houses, because they're usually very drafty and whatnot. So it's kind of hard to say, oh, well, it's really cold over here, I think it's haunted. Well, no, it's just that window is really loose and it's letting a lot of air in. And again, that's where the guns come in. So, you see you see a big fluctuation in temperature. Well, it might have been a draft that just came through and knocked the temp off.
Did you say a giraffe just came through?
A draft, yeah, a draft came through and hindered the reading of the temperature gauge. But again, like Chad said, that's why you always do your sweeps ahead of time. Check the windows, check everything, make sure there's not a lot of stuff coming through. Case in point, when we did the Haldeman Mansion, you see a big fluctuation. Chad said that's why you always. What the hell was that?
I accidentally turned us on my phone.
Oh, I was like, damn, am I getting that repeat again? Anyway, when we did the Haldeman, there were several windows where, they rattled, their air was just pouring through. So obviously we're not going to be putting any kind of sensitive devices near those windows because they were literally rattling out of the sills. So,
yeah, we were there in April. It was so windy at that point. That was
cold.
Yeah, especially for me, who's coming from Virginia, where it was already 70 daily, and coming up there to PA, where it's 50 and windy, and you're right on a river. I felt like I was freezing to death almost the entire weekend we were there.
It was tough, and I had the stomach bug on top of it, so it just made matters even worse. But, I muscled through.
You did good. You did good, big guy.
Thanks, Bubba. Thanks. So, okay, let's move on to another tool. But those were some temperature reading devices that we find very, very helpful. Another tool, and this is probably my personal favorite next to a camera, is a handheld recording device, a digital recorder, or an EVP recorder, an electronic voice phenomenon recorder. We have several of these, all different. I'm not particular to any brand. I have a Sony. I have an Olympus. We have some Gennaro brands. They all do the same thing. They all do, good job. Some have better microphones or whatever. What I would prefer, or what I would recommend, if you're going to look into a digital recorder, spend the extra money and get one that has USB connectivity, so you could very easily transfer video files to and from the device to your computer. Another thing, you want to make sure that when it records in multiple formats. So if you, like, I'm a Mac user, I'm a Mac guy, Chad's a PC, some of our devices I can't transfer onto my Mac because it doesn't read that format. So, try and find one that has multiple formats so that way you could transfer to whatever kind of computer you have. Don't get one that's overcomplicated. You want it to be simple. You want, your stop, play, record, playback buttons, easy, like an easy interface, something that you can go through quickly. I have an Olympus. I think it's a WS400. It's a little white Olympus. My wife got it for me years ago. It's still my go-to EVP. I could pop in, headphones for playback. It's awesome. I could pop in another thing to go with the EVP that's a nice add-on is an external microphone. Doesn't have to be anything special. Get a nice external microphone. I use mine. It just amplifies the sound. It's really, really cool. But I have the Olympus, and I also found a nice Sony just like that. That's one you could use. That's a pretty elaborate one that you have. It's so big. But I like the smaller ones that are easy to transport. You could just throw them in your bag and pop them on. And the ones that I have, it just pops right into the top of the EVP recorder. So you're holding the EVP, whereas some wired external mics, when you're holding in your hand, if you have too much motion and moving around, you also create different sounds, so it kind of throws things off. So you want to keep that in mind too. I like to keep one that's attached. I don't touch it. It's just recording. It's doing what it needs to do. So yeah, those are EVP or digital voice recorders. Staple, that should be a staple in your your equipment bag. Another thing is a good still camera, preferably one that's IR sensitive, which is infrared sensitive, so that way it could basically take a better picture at night, as long as you have like an IR light to boost. It gives a non-visible light, and it illuminates the room, not to the naked eye, but to the camera. The camera will pick it up. They're really good to have, a camera, so you could document things. If you hear something, if you smell something, if you feel cold spots, hot spots, if you see fluctuations with other devices, especially when we're using our K2s, when we start getting fluctuations with the lighting or the meter, snap off a couple pictures. The camera doesn't affect K2s. At least we've never found that they affect the K2s. Because if something's around, if something's interacting, the camera might pick that up. Let's see what else. Oh, another thing that we've been starting to use, not just for paranormal, but also for our cryptozoology investigations, because we also, go after, we chase monsters, not just ghosts. Trail cams. You can get a lot of them. They're relatively affordable these days. Some of them are ridiculously expensive, but you can get some good ones for under $100. Some of them sometimes near $50. I have a few Moultrie. I have stealth cams. Basically, whatever I can get my hands on cheap, I have. You want to make sure you have a good megapixel. You want to make sure you get one that records at least 180 seconds or 3 minutes. The thing that I like about those is they only record when they're triggered. So if you have a static camera that's running continuously, you have a lot of footage you got to go back through when you're doing your oh god, I'm drawing a blank. What is it called, Chad? Evidence review. Jesus. Review? Yeah, I'm sorry. I just totally blanked. I'm starting to get tired, folks. Sorry, I'm not used to staying up late. Yeah, when you do your evidence review, trail cams are nice because they only record when it is triggered, when something triggers it, and they only record for, like I said, a maximum of 3 minutes. Most of them have like a 75-foot flash, infrared flash, which will illuminate quite a nice distance, and especially if you're using them in an enclosed room, they really illuminate the room. So we've been using them. We've been getting some pretty good results with that. And some of them record audio as well as the video, so it's just an added bonus. Or you can set them up just to take a static picture. So if something triggers it, it could do like a burst of 9 pictures. So you have a succession of pictures that you can scroll through. Again, it's only when something activates it. The only downside to that is if it is a, quote, spirit. Right now for like the cryptozoology side, it's a physical thing, it's a physical being or creature. It's going to trip it. In the paranormal side, will an apparition, a shadow person, a spirit, whatever, will it trigger the camera? I don't know. We've had some success with it, but that's what we do. We experiment, we investigate, we try and use different methods to capture something and document that. So the trail cams are pretty cool. And the next thing we're going to talk about, well, I'm going to have Chad talk about it because I'm rambling on, and I want him to talk. Take it away.
Yeah. The trail cams are awesome. Like, one of the points Les was making there is they give you extra coverage, but it's not like when I take my, full CCTV system out and we do an investigation. If we're there investigating from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 8 a.m., that means I have at least 4 of those cameras set up somewhere that I have to review 12 to 13 hours of evidence, not just 12 one time. I have to do that for 4 separate cameras at least.
So I'm glad you do all that.
Yeah, that's why you didn't know. You kind of blanked on the evidence review part earlier.
Yeah, right. Because
like that thing you do, Chad, that nobody else wants to be involved in ever until you find something.
Well, but, there again, folks. That's one of the unfortunate things with our group is, unfortunately, Chad doesn't live around me anymore, and he usually collects the data at the end of the investigation. So he's kind of pigeonholed into that. But we always bounce stuff back and forth, and we share. We upload stuff and we share it. But he's usually the go-to guy for evidence review. But I know you had mentioned the CCT systems. Well, I'm going to let you talk about it because this is kind of your area of expertise. But I love it. But that's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, a good handheld IR video camera will make a big difference in what you're doing. We have 2 cameras that are IR video cameras. We basically have one that is digital and is very simple transfer and stuff like that. We have an older school, version that's a lot harder to transfer.
Yeah, it's an analog, a mini DV, and it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So a good digital, just handheld IR cam, you buy a couple, IR, either Polaroid or, you find some other, Phantom light or something like that, light units. And, you just have that handheld. It allows you to record. You can do like one of ours does stills. It does the recording. So it's good to always have something like that when you're doing investigations, because we started out old school. We, went somewhere and went looking around, and maybe we had a camera. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we had an EVP recorder. Maybe we didn't. Yeah.
Back in the days when we actually had to get disposable cameras and pay to get the film developed.
Yes. Yeah, that was one of the things, too. You might go out somewhere and take 5-6 pictures, and then, well, I'm not going to. I got 20 some more photos on here I got to use up. So there might be cameras sitting around, and film rolls that we've never developed that could have some great evidence on it.
You never know.
But a good handheld camera, you buy a tripod, you set it up, you can film yourself. We have a buddy who's, trying to produce a web show, basically with a handheld camera and, just filming himself doing things and stuff like that. So, that's a good thing. And it's always good to have something like that, because you may run into something you can't explain. Well, it's a lot better if you have it on film to show people and go, I don't know what I just, took a video of, but here you go.
Right.
If you're a little more into investigating, you're a little more willing to spend some money and willing to, kind of invest into what you're doing, or you're a little more knowledgeable about what you're doing, a CCTV system, a closed circuit television system, security cameras, folks, are, one of the greatest inventions next to the internet.
Nice bread.
Yeah. I mean, you can set up cameras, easy install. You don't have to, you don't have to connect them to anything. They come with bases. You set them up. You can monitor great areas with it, big areas. They come with built-in IR, so you're not adding stuff to them. One of the things we're doing is actually adding some more IR lights to our investigations, just so we can cover, some areas. Sometimes it's a doorway and you can see to the doorway and you can kind of see the IR light go through the doorway, but it's not greatly lit. So we're adding some extra IRs, but most of them have like a 75 to 100 foot IR, light to them. You get a hard drive a lot of times, a DVR system with a hard drive. So you can collect those 13, 14 hours of film in one place. It's not 10,000 SD cards that you're trying to remember. Did I load this one into my computer? What's on this? Is this the investigation we did there? Was it, it's one hard drive. You click on the file, you open it up, you review, you can take that and then transfer it to your computer, bring it up and send it to your friends for them to review, or, other investigators that you trust or work with. So that's definitely something, that people, get into, usually when they're a little more involved in investigating. But, I just talked to somebody that picked one up for like $60 and then had to order the hard drive for it, which cost them like $100. So they could, use it for security filming of their home and stuff like that. And, they're not super expensive nowadays. There's knockoff Chinese versions that work just as well and are cloud-based and can be wired into the internet if there's Wi-Fi and stuff like that. So, our system, if there's Wi-Fi, I can bring it up on my phone and watch what's going on the 4 cameras on my cell phone. So we haven't done that yet because we haven't really investigated too many places with Wi-Fi. Usually, dilapidated mansions along the river don't generally, have Wi-Fi nowadays.
Or heat or electricity, for that matter.
Or windows that sealed correctly, or
bathrooms in the house.
Or, ghosts that didn't scream, or...
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as equipment goes, let's see, what else could we throw in there? We did the K2s. We hit most of the biggies here.
One of the things, like, if you really want to spend money and get a good piece of equipment that kind of combines a couple different pieces, I would say like the Melmeter.
Yep, we have one of those. Yep.
Yeah, would be something because it combines your temperature, your EMF, stuff like that into one device. It's, very sturdy. You're not going to end up losing it. A K2 meter you could accidentally drop in a dark house and, not really notice it for a while.
Yep. Yeah, we have the Melmeter on our site. Again, in the gear section of our website, we have the Melmeter actually that we use. Awesome device. It reads temperature. It reads EMF frequencies, and I think it actually reads like gamma radiation frequencies too, which is kind of interesting. It does everything. Another thing, some other stuff, and again, it's all on the site to go check out. We have REM pods, which are kind of cool. They're just little tiny EMF sensitive pods that you could sit around, and they have a wire that's sensitive to the EMF, and they have a blue light that'll illuminate whenever something is interfering with it. So that's kind of another thing that we like to put down when we have a static cam, like Chad had said. If there's a spot in a room that's heightened with activity or is said to have a lot of activity, we could set the thermo gauge or the temp gauge down there. We put a REM pod down with it. We throw them all down in front of a static camera. We notice a fluctuation in temperature. We notice the light goes on. Again, it's just another thing to kind of solidify that, hey, something here is happening. We notice a fluctuation in temperature. All right, so to kind of take it out that, it must have been just a draft from a window. Well, no, we had an EMF spike too. So it's not just wind that's going on right there. So they're kind of cool. You could buy them in like 6 packs or more. They're relatively inexpensive. They're a very simple design. We love using them. Another thing that we have is an EMF pump, which is basically mine is a very obnoxiously loud and annoying device that is basically a little vibrator box that pumps out electromagnetic frequencies to kind of, because they say spirits draw energy from devices in order to manifest themselves to appear or move something or speak. They draw the energy out so they could react. This pump pushes out electromagnetic frequencies into the atmosphere in hopes to energize the spirits. Have we noticed really much success with it? It's kind of 50-50 right now. We're going to do more research with it. So, when we find out more, we'll let you know more. There's spirit boxes. There's, several different models that you can look at. Again, we have a couple on our website at explorersgroup.com. I think it's the SB67, SB67. I don't know the actual name of the device, but again, it's on.
It's on. SP7.
Is that what it is? The SP7?
Yeah. 7.
Let me hold on. I'm
And the SP11.
The P-SB7. That's the spirit box in particular that we have. Again, this thing's kind of subjective. It cycles through or sweeps through multiple radio frequencies, and again, it's supposed to generate like a white noise where spirits could use the box to speak through. A lot of times all we get, especially if you're in a more populated area where there's a lot of different stations filtering through, you get a lot of radio noise, a lot of just nonsense. But when you use them and you really kind of know how to dial them in, you start to hear different sounds that stick out from the rest, like the norm. And you start hearing more intelligent responses, I guess you could say. Is when you ask questions, you get intelligent responses to the questions you ask. So I do like the spirit box. Again, I think it's a subjective device, but when you really work with it and you really mess around with it, you'll start to understand or differentiate the sounds, and it could be very interesting. Another one is the SB11, which is a dual sweep. It's a little bit more complicated, but again, you get the same end result. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the gauntlet of equipment. I mean, we have the Orbiter electronic listening device. It's basically a bionic ear that it gives you, it amplifies sounds up to 300 yards away. We use that mainly when we're doing cryptozoological research, but it is a good tool to have for paranormal as well, because a lot of times EVPs come through really soft. This amplifies that. You can plug it directly into an EVP recorder. It works just the same. It's really cool. I mean, that's really the bulk of the equipment that we use, and I mean, we've used a lot of other equipment too, but it was kind of hokey. It didn't really produce any kind of worthwhile results. The stuff that we have on our site, the stuff that we're talking about tonight, is pretty much the tried and true stuff that you really want to get your hands on. We do offer a kit on our site that is a starter kit that has basically the bulk of everything you're going to need. So, I mean, that in a nutshell is kind of a history of paranormal investigating, a breakdown of the different kind of theorized spirits or what they can be, and a breakdown of some of the tools. So, I mean,
yeah, just, a lot of stuff you're seeing on television nowadays with these shows is, like an SLS cam and stuff like that. There is no scientifically provable way to prove any of that stuff works.
Right.
It is a computer program. I once had an argument with, somebody who claims to be a paranormal expert now, that basically, Zach Bagans uses a computer-generated, his spirit box, that SB7 is a computer program, and da-da-da. I'm like, clearly you've never handled one. Mm-hmm. And when the person finally actually did handle one, they all of a sudden thought they were an expert on that, actually how it does work. But stuff like the SB7s, stuff that's a little more low tech is usually better. You watch this SLS camera, and there's always a figure, and it's always dancing, and it's always doing this and doing that. It's the same basic thing over and over again. And, oh, that's evidence of a ghost. Not evidence of anything. It's a device that could or could not be manipulated by the programmer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a camera. It's going. I mean, there's people out there that buy them and use them. I haven't seen anything to me that proves that they're worth the money you're going to spend on one.
They're a lot of money.
Yeah. I saw there's somebody actually just created basically the old shack hack where you can make one for under $100. I don't know if it works. Again, I really don't have any interest in having one because it's computer. It's not mapping anything necessarily, but it is mapping something.
Right.
Well, how do I prove that something is a ghost? But yet if you watch television or, stuff like that, you hear these people say, well, that's evidence of a ghost. That's proof.
Right.
No, it's not. It's all subjective. There's no scientific verification. A temperature, holding a thermometer, a thermal gun and shooting a thing and knowing that thermal gun is calibrated, is data, it's evidence. It's not proof of anything. It's just data and evidence. Still photos and things like that are just data being collected. It's not evidence. It's not proof of the paranormal. It's not proof of ghost in a building. EVPs. It's not proof. It's data. Your whole thing is you're collecting data to eventually have enough data that they have to recognize the possibility that there needs to be more scientific study done on the field.
Right.
So that's my 2 cents on some of the stuff you're seeing on TV. You don't need high-tech equipment. We started out, drive to a place, walk around, see what you see, hear what you hear. There was no, we have a camera system with us and we have a guy back here monitoring the cameras. No, we used to just go places, do stuff, and go see there's a haunted house up here in the woods. Well, we'd go there and see what happened.
Yeah.
Half the time it was, there's a haunted house up there in the woods, and you'd go up there and there's, an old foundation of a house and maybe a couple of the walls are still kind of standing. And, you'd go up there for hours and not see anything, or you'd go up there and you'd hear stuff. And then you'd realize, well, there are deer and bear in the woods, and they trudge through the woods and they bang off stuff and that makes noises. And then that's your ghost.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few places we've been over the years that may or may not have had some, spiritual thing going on. But you're not, a lot of this equipment, don't start buying into the, I need to buy this, I need to have that, I need to have these $1,000 cameras. Buy a $200 camera.
Forbid, please do not buy into the freaking apps on your phone. These ghost meters, these ghost boxes and whatnot that are on your phone, because that is 100% subjective. You cannot rely on that. It is a computer software. It's working through your phone, which has a microphone, right? So you start asking questions, it could very easily process that and dictate an answer based off of your questions. I get so frustrated with those things, and I see so many groups now that are like, oh my God, I got on the Spirit Speak app, I got this response. Oh my God, I'm gonna break your godforsaken phone. Like, do not buy into those apps. It is a computer generated app. it'll reproduce based off of what you say. It's an easy coding. It's easily coded into the software. Rant over. I'm not even going to talk about it anymore because I'm a fan.
Yeah, it's for entertainment, people.
Yeah,
If you want to play around, that's fine, but don't act like that. Again, it's very subjective. It's not gonna be scientifically validating anything.
Yeah, it's a novelty, is all it is. So, well, I know we had talked about talking about personal experiences. However, we are way over our time frame. We are now 46 minutes past our projected end time. So I don't want to be a tease. I mean, should we ramble on for a few minutes? I mean, we lost all our viewers right now. We have nobody watching the show.
Yeah, that was about a half hour ago. They actually stopped watching.
Yeah.
I think we should save it. Maybe, as we do some more paranormal stuff, we can talk about, some of the stuff that we've experienced at houses and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll save some of those stories, more or less for some of the other paranormal episodes, and kind of
somebody log back on. We got one viewer. Oh.
Is it Leslie? Is she watching us?
Probably like, Jesus, is he still talking? You know what? Here, we'll say this and then we'll wrap up the show. Very soon, we are planning on going to investigate a beautiful old mansion in Leesburg, Virginia. We'll give everybody the details as we get closer to that time. It's going to be awesome. It has a super cool history. We'll fill you in more. We will do another show on paranormal experiences, and we will fill you in with all the stories that we had that we were going to tell you tonight, but it is getting really, really late, and we all got work tomorrow. So this is Less Than Cabbage, second part of the Explorers Seekers of the Truth. I am signing off. Thank you, Chad, so much for putting the show together tonight. Thank you for joining me as always, and everybody. Thank you for. I mean, we had 4 viewers today. I mean, that's 3 more than usual. You know what I mean?
And we actually had people commenting and joking and having fun.
Yeah. Thank you, Leslie and Kevin, for being the only people to reply and watch the show. And thank you to the other 2 unnamed people. I don't know who you are. I'll find out later, I guess. Thanks. Our show numbers are growing. That's great. I hope we didn't bore you. I hope you enjoyed the show. So this is Les signing off. Chad?
Yep. See you guys later. Thank you for joining us. Check out our website, check out Twitter, check out our YouTube, our Facebook. It's all on our website, explorersgroup.com.
That's right, everybody. Have a good night.
Night.